Speaking of the greatest in Santa Clarita, a very special guest in studio, and it is time once again for our Santa Clarita's Unsung Hero, and we recognize those who work to help other people without expecting anything in return except for maybe a thank you. This is our series brought to you by Mercedes-Benz of Valencia. This week, our guest, our KHTS Unsung Hero, is Amber Raskin. Amber Raskin, the Santa Clarita mother of two, is founder and executive director of the Business Development and Operations at the SCVi Charter School for International Learning here in the Santa Clarita Valley. As an outspoken advocate of the public K through 12 charter school and its leadership building approach to learning, Amber's in the press and even here on KHTS often, so her heroism is not exactly unsung most of the time, but that's okay. But we're also going to find out more about her before SCVi and a whole bunch of other stuff. But Amber, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So you're Santa Clarita Unsung Hero. So.
I'm very flattered and touched and moved by that honor. Thank you.
Yeah. So okay. So let's start with this. Obviously, nowadays you're known for SCVi.
Right.
So give me a little brief description. I got a bunch of questions here. So I need a little brief description of what you do at SCVi.
I started as founder, and now there's a couple of us that are founders because we really all put our blood, sweat, and tears in. And now my day-to-day has shifted a little. I oversee business development and operations for both of the schools that we have, and we're also working on opening more schools. So I help shepherd along that side. We have somebody who shepherds along the education side, and I shepherd along the business and operations and development in that way. Okay,
so that's what you do at SCVi. Okay, so I'm sure, I know for a fact, we'll talk more about SCVi in a little bit.
Sure.
But okay, so you're Amber Raskin. Mm-hmm. You where did Amber Raskin come from? Where were you born? When you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grow up? Did you want to run a charter school when you were a kid?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought, even though they weren't around. Someday there's going to be charter schools, and I'm going to want to open one. I am actually born and raised California and lived here my whole life, except for 9 months. I lived in Manhattan City, and in New York City and Manhattan, and several generations back, we've been from California. Lived in LA as a young child, and then in Orange County I grew up. I went to junior high, some elementary, junior high, and high school in Newport Beach. And then I graduated from Cal State Long Beach, went to a couple of community colleges first.
Okay.
You want me to go on?
Well, I just want to. What did you, when you were growing up? What did you want to do?
Oh, right. You asked that. Sorry. Yeah. So that's part of when I tell the story of starting the school. It really starts with me, and so I tell the story of what happened with my own kids when we got to school age for them. But I realized the driving force was that I didn't feel back when I went to school in a very good area in Newport Beach. That it worked for me because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think that it's a crime that so many kids graduate from high school not knowing. And so I actually, things went really well for me in elementary school. I tested into mentally gifted minors, which was what GATE was back then. And then I went and I just had a great time in elementary school. And then I got to junior high and high school, and things kind of fell through the cracks. And so my parents got divorced, and it was a hard time, and I felt like if I had connected with another adult, or if there had been more of a focus on what am I interested in, I could have had a great career earlier in life, because I felt like I kind of had to recover from my education, because the message was that you're not going to be much, you're not going to do much, because I struggled. There's executive function skills is what we call them today, but it's really like being organized, knowing how to take notes, doing all those kinds of things. I think if I would have had some of that help and training, I would have had a much easier time. So I graduated from high school thinking, I don't know what I want to do. I have to, go to college and declare a major, and I don't really know. I don't have any idea. And so I remember walking the campus going, well, I guess I used to stay up late at night when I was a kid rearranging my room. I guess I'll do interior design, because I know that I like to move stuff around. I think environments are really important to your psyche. And so I was really passionate about making a difference. And so I just chose interior design sort of randomly.
Okay, so you did interior design. You graduated, and I read here in your bio that you were a TV producer and a production manager.
So that's part of my story too that I tell is that I went ahead and chose interior design. It wasn't, I wasn't sure that it was right for me or not. I loved the creativity of it. Like I said, I do think your environment can really affect you positively or negatively. And so when I went to school, which I took a long, long time to finish college, but I graduated with no debt, which I used to apologize for how long it took me to get through college, but I realized that I graduated with no debt.
Not a race.
And then,
it's not a race.
Well, that's if you've seen the movie Race to Nowhere. Absolutely. They say the same thing. I agree with you. And so when I was almost done with college, I did an internship, and I'm a big believer in internships for the reason that I did one internship and found out that I wasn't for me, and I did another one and found out it was. So I did an internship and thought, wow, they're not my tribe. I love the creativity of interior design. I love environments, but the people in interior design weren't my tribe, because what I was all about, what mattered to me the most, was making a difference. And I felt like they were more about the choosing the right color of a couch, which is part of the puzzle, but it's not the whole thing to me.
Background stuff.
Yeah. And so I thought, I just want to make a difference. What matters to me the most as I'm graduating with a degree that I don't want to go into? What matters to me the most? And I thought, it's just making a difference. So I want to surround myself with people that want to make a difference. That's my intent. That's my goal in life. And who was big on the scene, who I just still to this day adore? Oprah. Okay. Love Oprah. She was, that's back when she started, went national, and I thought I would like to work with Oprah. So I'm going to work my way towards Oprah. So naturally, that means I got to get some experience in TV.
Got to go to TV.
Yeah. So living in Orange County, working in a restaurant, which I actually worked in 2 restaurants in Orange County during that period, and I just cold called every TV show that I could think of, and got an internship again. I had got one in interior design, and like I said, not my tribe. Sir Ken Robinson, I love to say that 'cause Sir Ken Robinson's the best, and that's his words. And so then I got an internship in LA. So drive from Orange County to LA, arranged my work schedule so that I could, and they said, you need to be here 10 hours a week. I said, can I come more? And they said, well, I guess so. So I showed up. All the other interns are doing their thing, and it's, just a few hours a week. I showed up every hour that anybody who worked there did. It wasn't long before I got a job.
Yeah.
And so then when I got a job, I worked my way up. So I started as intern, went to a production assistant, and then got promoted pretty quickly. And when I got promoted quickly and was put in charge of hiring and multi-million-dollar budgets, and within not a long period, actually it was a shorter period, now that I think about it, a shorter period of time than it took me in school to finish school, I got to a pretty good level. And I thought there's something that they're valuing in the workplace that is different than what they valued in school, because clearly they see that there's something in me that all my teachers told me wasn't there, at least in junior high and high school. And so that was a very eye-opening experience. And, most people don't. I actually thought I would go into set design because of my degree in interior design. Yeah. But it turned out that I went a different route. I was pretty good at the logistics and pretty good at, arranging. In fact, I did one of those personality assessments, and the top one was arranger. and that is me. I absolutely like to set up the conditions so that people can do their thing.
Okay. All right, so I want to ask you this. Well, actually, we're going to go to break, and then I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to ask you about, you dealt with, so you're in TV. Mm-hmm. You obviously dealt with a lot of, personalities.
Egos.
Yeah, yes. I want to ask you about some of that. Okay. Some of that fun stuff.
Okay.
Or not so fun stuff.
Love to.
And we'll talk about that next.
Love to.
Amber Raskin, she's our KHTS Santa Clarita Unsung hero, and we're more with her after this. KHTS. Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We're with Amber Raskin for our newest edition of Santa Clarita's Unsung Hero on AM 1220 KHTS, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz of Valencia. And we were talking about Amber's background a little bit, and she had just got done telling us that she was, working in television, and she was during the break she was saying that times have changed a little bit because she used to have to print out the scripts, people's scripts, and drive them all over the place to give the talent their script changes. But now you can just email them out.
Right,
so,
right. It shows how old I am.
Think about how much more time you would have had.
I know. No, well, I wouldn't have had to stay up till late at night driving everywhere and getting lost in crazy neighborhoods.
Okay, so people want to hear this. People love, some Hollywood stories. Mm-hmm. So what type of stories can you tell? Feel free to name names. And just to have a little, nothing too bad, of course. But you have a story.
I have a funny story about Tammy Faye Bakker, and it was when I was brand new. I was an intern still, wasn't even paid. And they said to me, it's funny how quickly you can get with some of the bigger stars if you are doing the grunt work, And so because, like I said, I was there every day and they could count on me, they said one day Tammy Faye Bakker came in and she needed somebody assigned to her to take care of her. So they said, Amber, it's you. You're going to take care of her. You follow her around, whatever she needs, you do. So I did. I got her water and her special stuff.
Nothing weird though, right? Like nothing like Can I get a football helmet full of cottage cheese?
No, well, that actually there was another person who had, but it's not as weird now. But back then it was. She ate raw and she had vegan, and that was Mary Lou Henner. But that was kind of funky back then. Nobody knew about
that was weird then. Yeah, but
now it's pretty normal. Yeah. But so Tammy Faye Bakker, when I was assigned to her, she's doing her thing, and she was everything that you see her to be in person too. That you would assume she would be like kind of funny and big eyelashes and all that. And so she walks around with her little dog. She brought her dog to set, and her dog was in the dressing room, and it's this little teeny dog. But I guess her dog was sick because he wound up having diarrhea in the dressing room. And what I did was,
good grief.
When that happened, of course, I'm supposed to take care of her, and I'm like, I'll do whatever I need to do. So I ran and cleaned it up.
Oh, my goodness.
And everybody on set was like, oh, I wouldn't do that. How could you do that? Why would you do that? And I said, well, it needed to be cleaned up and it smelled bad. So I just did what needed to be done. And so she, of course, was like, ooh, and didn't do much. But, I was there to take care of her, so I did it. What I like about this story is it's funny. It is funny that happened. But also some of those people that wouldn't do it, like it was just a couple years later that I became higher than them, not at that show. Yeah. But, I got promoted pretty quickly because I was willing to do what it took. Yeah. So it's kind of a funny little thing.
Okay, you're doing all this stuff. Mm-hmm. You got all this stuff. You just finished school. You're going, all this different stuff. In this time, did you get married and have kids? When was the time that you got married and had kids?
I met my husband while working in TV. He still does work in TV. Okay. And so we got married. I worked on a show called World's Wildest Police Videos when we got married. And we moved out here about a year later while I was pregnant. So I got pregnant while still working in TV. And my last day of work was the day I went into labor. Worked right up until the end.
Timed that perfectly.
Yeah.
I think that show was on True TV.
Yeah.
It's the same network as my show. That's funny.
And then I stayed home, which was planned. We planned for me to stay home. So I did. I stayed home for around 10 years. And intended to stay home most of my kids' childhood and volunteer. Well, I became a super volunteer, of course. And so when my kids got to school age, I started to look at where to contribute, and I started to think about their schooling. And I sort of got sucked into my calling, I guess, and my passion, which was to really make a difference. And then it turned out what was meant to be was for me to make a difference in education. So that's how that came to be.
And so that's how that happened. So your kids started attending public school.
Yeah.
And SCVi is a public school, but we need to say that. Mm-hmm. But they started attending public school. So what happened there, and what areas did you see the traditional schools missing, and what areas did you see them missing stuff?
So my kids went to College of the Cannons preschool. Love that preschool. Can't say enough about it. It's early childhood center is the right name for it, and it's developmental approach. I'm very much about developmental. Focusing on growth methods in education rather than standardization. And so it was just a great fit for us. I was starting to hear stories, though, about what school was like for kids when they were in kindergarten, first grade, with friends with older kids, and getting a little bit worried. But thought, well, I got to give it a shot. I have to give it a shot. And so we did. So my kids went to which is, a big reason we moved out here was for the schools, because they really are amazing. They did.
Yeah.
And so I thought, so my daughter did kinder and first grade. And when we went into kindergarten, there's a few defining moments. And one was when I was volunteering in the classroom, because I was very involved. I mean, I stayed home really so I could volunteer. And my daughter was in a very good teacher's room in a very good school, but I was sitting there at a center, and she was yelling across the classroom at another little boy who wasn't doing his art like the sample. And and it broke my heart. And I don't even think the teacher meant it the way it came out. I think that there was just there's pressure to do things a certain way.
Okay.
And it's not any one person's fault or any one school's fault. I think that this is a systemic problem.
It's kind of a cultural thing. Even.
Yeah, in all schools, really, in the nation. In fact, school reform is happening worldwide. And I think that some of these things that happen to play out the way they do, not intended to be that way, have happened. And I thought, this just isn't going to work for me. It's just not my philosophy. It's not the way I've spent all these years staying home with my kids, nurturing them, that I want them to be for, even if it's only 6 hours a day, that's a lot of their day.
Yeah.
And there was another defining moment too, which was I didn't give my kids any sugar until they were 2. And then I was very careful with what they ate. And in the first week or 2 of school, another parent just randomly brought a cake and said, "Happy first week."
Yeah.
And I thought, wow. And they get all this sugar that I don't even know about.
Yeah.
And then I pick them up and say, "Hey, you want to get an ice cream?" Because I'm thinking it's a rare treat. And I find out later that there was a lot.
I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm finding out that there's a lot of things happening there that I didn't know about.
Okay.
And then I also just really wanted to be very involved. And it felt a little hard to be involved in the classroom with them.
Gotcha. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. Okay. We got to do some news and get some commercials out of the way. Got bills to pay. So, and we're going to talk about SCVi.
Okay.
That's what we'll talk about next. We're talking with Amber Raskin. She is our SCV KHTS. Wait, what is it? Santa Clarita's Unsung Hero on AM 1220 KHTS. That's what it is. KHTS. AM 1220 KHTS, your hometown station. I'm getting in trouble. Amber's getting me in trouble here. She's our KHTS Santa Clarita Unsung Hero on AM 1220 KHTS. Brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Let's try that again. Brought to you by Mercedes-Benz of Valencia. Okay, so we talked about some of the stuff you noticed in traditional public schools. And you can see this whole interview, by the way. It'll be on hometownstation.com if you missed anything, if you're just tuning in. And you discovered that you weren't the only parent that felt the same way that you did.
Right. Yeah. And let me say that the traditional schools work for a lot of kids. So there's nothing, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with traditional schools. I do think that the world is changing and that we need to adapt. And sometimes the way our system is set up, we change a little too slowly, especially for the rapidly changing world of today.
You at least offer an alternative.
Yeah, exactly. And that was really the intent. I didn't want to take over anything, just wanted to offer an alternative. So I started looking around when I was thinking this isn't going to work for me, for other options, and looked at private schools in Santa Clarita and other schools, and there just weren't a lot of choices. There weren't a lot of places, which is, I'm so happy to see that that's not the case anymore, that there are more choices now than there were then. But at that time, I felt like private school was fine, and we could afford private school. But the private schools that I saw locally were, and even nationwide, are often very much the same traditional method. Maybe smaller classes, little tweaks here and there, but it was very much the same. So I thought, I've always wanted to be somebody who's part of the solution and not part of the problem. So I started looking around. What's here? Not just here, but I thought if there isn't a school here, there's got to be one somewhere that I like. So I started just investigating what's out there. And it took, my investigation took me statewide. I went to San Diego, I went to Northern California, the desert, and I looked at private, public, charter, and everything from Waldorf to parochial. I looked at every single thing you could possibly imagine. And in that process, learned a lot about charter schools. And I think I was kind of naive at the time because I didn't understand as much as I do about charter schools now, but I thought, we need one of those here. We need one of those in Santa Clarita. And we had independent study charter schools. We had a dependent charter school, but there were no independent site-based charter schools at that time. And I said, I'm going to start one of those. And that's where I think I was naive. Cause I'm
Yeah.
it happened. We did it. We've been successful, but wow, I didn't know what was going to happen from A to Z, and I also naively said, I used to do the same sort of thing in TV. I'll just take out actors and I'll put in educators. And it was a little more complicated than that, as it turned out. And thank goodness for Dawn Evenson, because she came on and really became a partner to me, not just somebody we hired, And to this day, we know it was meant to be that we found each other and we're working together, because in the process of it, we learned that we really could make a dent in changing the world. And that's what we want. That's what we want, not for ourselves, because I don't really care about, like I told you before the interview started, I don't necessarily love being on camera, but because it's something that I'm passionate about, I do it because it will forward what I care about. And so that's what we're about at our school, is setting up the conditions so kids can thrive, whatever their passion is, whatever works for them, that they feel that they can change the world in whatever area they're passionate about.
And you can go to, if you want to learn more about SCVi, you can go to scvcharterschool.org. And so...
It's actually, that's not right. It's
not.
It's scvi-k12.org.
Oh.
That's the old one, and it leads you to the new one. And also, if you want to look at both of our campuses, you can look at ileadschools.org.
ileadschools.org.
And you asked me about the parent following, too, and I didn't address that.
Oh.
So when I went to, when I was going around the state looking at different schools, I would come back from these trips, and I, of course, talked about it. I was passionate about it. I'd come back, and I'd find myself on the phone repeating the same conversation 10 times or so, telling people what I saw and what I found, and what I liked and what I didn't like. And I'd go to schools and I'd be like, this is my favorite school. And then I'd go to another one and I go, this is my favorite school. So what we finally realized is we just needed to customize something that worked for our area. Because it's different. It's definitely different. We know it's not without controversy, and it's in our approach.
Certainly.
So we're willing to stand, because we stand for firmly believe what we're offering is addressing a lot of kids that might not have been successful in another system. We are willing to be controversial because we know it serves the kids. That's the point. And that's what I think the parents were attracted to, too, is approaching education in a different way, trying new things, which the charter school law was really passed for that. If you read it, it says it's to address failing schools and also innovation. And innovation is really what we're addressing. And I think it seems in Santa Clarita a little out there and different to people. But if you go around the world and you look at particularly the people that are really into educational reform, what we're doing is on the cutting edge and on the forefront of education. And in fact, the Common Core standards, which are now new to the country, a lot of them are based on project-based learning. And you can't have project-based learning without building a culture of independence. And kids don't come to you making good choices already, is our belief. We need to teach them to make good choices. And so we get kids who make poor choices, and we help them reflect, which looks really different, and it's controversial. But we know that we're willing to continue to educate adults and kids about those concepts.
Excellent. And okay, that does it for us. Anything else? I know school's starting tomorrow. What else do we have going on at
school
SCVi?
Starts tomorrow. We're very excited about our high schoolers are going into their own new building. There's a church that moved, and we took the lease a little bit early. They were thrilled to move into a larger space, and so we were thrilled to put our high schoolers into this new building, and they can't wait. They've been painting and working hard, helping the facilitators get everything ready, and we also have we formed a class that's just TK, transitional kindergarten. We're excited about that, and there's a few spots open in certain grades, so if people are interested, they can certainly go to our website. We encourage you to take a tour, reach out to us.
Excellent.
Happy to share.
Amber Raskin, thank you so much for stopping by. Amber Raskin is our Santa Clarita Unsung Hero, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz of Valencia. All of the Mercedes-Benz of Valencia Unsung Heroes can be seen at hometownstation.com. Thank you, Amber.